Welcome to the Vision Gap Show. Align your big idea and vision with a plan of action to resonate and stand out in your market. With your hosts, Andy Halko and Tony Zayas.
Welcome to today's show, The Vision Gap. We're back for another episode, and today we're going to be talking about positioning, creating some positioning statements. But Andy, I'll ask you the question. So last week we talked value propositions. We went through exercises, process, and how to build them out in Frictionless. Why, as far as like steps, why are we holding positioning statements till now?
Yeah, it's a process, right? I mean, and I think we've kind of gone through that process of, starting with core values, getting into our personas. Our personas really drove that value propositions piece, which is what makes us unique in the marketplace. And then we talked about brand voice, which is how we look and feel and sound to the world. And this is kind of a little bit of the peak of the mountain where, positioning statements take all of that and put it into cohesive messaging that can be the guide rails for all your messaging moving forward. And so really I almost see it a little bit of as an equation of if we've got value propositions, which again came from our personas and they're what make us unique. And we've got brand voice, which is what is our tone. We take those two things and we add them together. We get our positioning, which is clear articulation of why people should work with us in our tone and voice.
Yeah, and part of why I was asking, and I think that's fantastic clarification, is if you're trying to make sense of all this on your own, I think it's important to realize the connectivity between these things. And in particular, I'll just say, like, we're going to dive into Frictionless and show how the platform helps build this stuff out. But I think even if you're going to go off and do this on your own, you need to be pulling these foundational elements together. A lot of people are using AI, and I think that's why Frictionless is really different, is because it's using context and it's building on those pieces as they're developed. So positioning
tools out there where people, these tools are saying, write your positioning, and you put in one thing like, what does our business do? Or it says, describe your business, and it creates positioning. And it's like, well, that is an empty shirt that has no value, because when you look at it, it really does need to be this progressive process. We do have to set a foundation for the business. We do have to understand why our prospects buy. We do then have to go through this process of creating value propositions that clearly define what makes us unique versus our competitors. Then we have to create that brand voice that can really define, how we want to sound and feel and look. And then we create these positioning statements. And that's the only way to get to positioning statements that are really impactful, are going to make a massive difference when you're leveraging them on your website or in marketing campaigns. And the ones that you create where, again, kind of empty shirt or, no foundation, those are just not going to be as effective because they're based off of no logic or no structure. And so this really is a good process to make sure you're significantly more effective.
Yeah. And there's so much focus on, as marketers, as business leaders, we need that output, right? Those messages that we're going to put in front of people. But if the foundation is not there, like you said, it's going to be that empty shirt. So it cracks me up sometimes when, like, using different AI tools, there's like a little button or a checkbox, right, for like brand voice or whatever it is, or one line to enter in your positioning or whatever. And that's all that it's using to come up with something. And then people are unhappy with how it turns out. So of course, right.
They're not unhappy, but they take it to market and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Even worse.
They see, oh, wow, this magic tool just created this for me. And then they use it and it's junk. And so I think that if you're not doing this in a way that's that's proper and that really builds a strong foundation, you're going to see it in the end result. You're going to see the failure there.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the approach to positioning? So we're at this point where we've created the value proposition. We've defined all these other pieces that you referenced. Let's dive in and talk about how to develop these different positioning statements.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm up in Frictionless, and this is kind of our brand central, right? And so we worked on value propositions, what makes us unique last week. And just to reiterate kind of that process is we went through this workshop where we were ranking the buying factors of our target audience. We were comparing those things to us and our competitors. We were providing very specific context that matters. And then that ended up producing these value propositions, which really define the uniqueness of who we are and how we go to market. And then we talked about brand voice, obviously, where we together as a team built this voice of we're bold and confident and intellectual. And now we get to positioning. And in this workshop, what we typically do as a team is start out with a foundation of what I like to call the formulaic positioning and then the problem fix outcome. And this is really just a way to gather thoughts and ideas from our team in a very structured and easily understandable process. And so you'll see here the formulaic positioning is for target. Our brand is in a category that delivers a point of difference so they can benefit because a reason to believe. And so, and we've got more information here that helps kind of walk people through different examples to help them. But you can see here for marketing managers, Incivia is the consulting firm and agency that delivers true strategic insight so they can execute more efficient and impactful marketing and sales because we have created methodologies and products that are strategy first for a results obsessed approach. So that's what I wrote. Tony, you were in here. You wrote something a little bit different. And so then I also create my problem fix outcome. And so again, what we're really doing is giving a structured approach to have your team work on these pieces. And then our underlying system, what it's doing is it will take all of these different answers from your team, breaks them apart, and you can see points of difference, problems, benefits, and outcomes, breaks all of that apart, goes back to our value propositions and looks at those, takes our brand voice, and then our AI uses all of that to write these different pieces. And so what we typically have, and I'll just walk through it, is your identifier. So a short, simple statement that clearly articulates who you are. Your flag in the ground, a we believe statement that gives purpose to why you do what you do. I love that one because I think it's that emotional drive of why people want to do business with us. Our elevator pitch, which is a short, clear introduction to what we do. It's the what. And then the position statement, that's the how, an expansion on that elevator pitch to explain how you actually achieve your what. And then we've even got tagline here as well. And so these are the key statements that you end up using as that foundational piece to your messaging that you now have. What simply identifies us? Why should people believe and want it? What do we do? How do we achieve that? And then a short statement that'll help bring it all together. And so again, our AI is really going behind the scenes and breaking all this apart, using other data throughout the system to produce these messages. And so you can see here, Incivia transforms marketing teams with strategic insight. And then the how is through our unique results-driven methodologies. And then a great tagline of strategize first, impact more, right? And so again, these pieces really are coming from a wide range of information to then set up this foundational structure for messaging that we'll create later.
I'll just add, like, so that the deliverables that is being produced, the outputs here, your identifier, flag it around, all that stuff's fantastic. But I think that a good part of this exercise is just getting a team to go through the workshop process and to actually go through and write the formulaic positioning, because by doing that, it's like building muscle. We talked about doing these shows, right? Is building muscle. We used to do them all the time, and it's something you got to get into. And this is the same thing. So let's say you have a marketing team or even a sales team, leaders, how you talk about your business, the more you do it, the more you think about how you connect the dots of the different intermingled pieces matters. And so going through this process forces people to, it's simple because it's basically a fill in the blank Mad Lib, but it forces someone to think of how these things work together. So I'm just going to add that, like, we're going through this because this is what the platform does. But that alone, I think that for people that are just looking to get into this and solve this problem for the business, these little pieces can be super impactful.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, the great thing too is that it becomes a discussion point because you're putting in yours, you can see what other folks are writing, and you can even just, at the very bare minimum, you're having everybody pull this in because everyone's going to have a slightly different view. And obviously, a lot of this process too is trying to create some alignment because you're taking all these wide variety of viewpoints. You're able to have some discussion about it, and then you're able to leverage the AI that takes it through a process to get to something that ends up being the final product that you all agree on, right? And so I think, again, like you said, there's a ton of value in just doing these exercises. But then what we really look at Frictionless as a big benefit is getting everybody aligned so that when your sales team, your marketing team, your product team, they're going out the market, they have these set messages and set foundation that they come back to and say, we all worked on this. We know that it strategically aligns with everything that we want with our business. We're all going to do it so that we communicate consistently. And that really comes across as a true professional business.
Yep, for sure. This fills in a lot of the gaps of, what a team that's going through these exercises, the output here is going to help deliver a lot of that and help create, as you said, kind of the framework or guidelines for how to articulate and put messaging out into the universe. So super powerful stuff. And then I think just looking at this screen, I want to say in the next episode, we're actually going to take a look at go into the identity side of things. So you can see that there on the screen as well. So we'll talk more about that and then how that relates in our next episode.
Yeah. And just the final point of, I do think getting people aligned, that is the great thing about having one place where all of this lives, these things we've talked about, and what is our core values, who are our personas. Now we've done what makes us unique in the marketplace, brand voice, positioning. A lot of companies, not only are they missing a ton of these elements, but they definitely don't have one source of truth, and one source of truth that can continually be evolved for them to, make sure that everybody is always on the same page, no matter what happens in the business. So I think it's important to kind of, as we get towards the end of this, to really talk about that purpose of alignment, which we think is key to companies being successful, is making sure everybody is aligned.
Yeah, for sure. So really good stuff. Again, next time we will dive into the identity side of things. But thanks everyone for tuning in today. We will see you next time.
This episode of the Vision Gap Show has been brought to you by Frictionless. Build high-impact strategy at scale. Create your vision, brand position, and go-to-market strategy. All in a collaborative AI-enabled workspace. Visit frictionlesshq.com to create your free account today.